Hi guys, and welcome back. It is seed starting day again. We are about 12 weeks to our average last frost date. So today I'm going to be starting a whole bunch of my perennial herbs and flowers. When starting perennials from seed, they're very slow growing. So you could have started these a few weeks ago, but of course we have lots of time left. So I'm going to get these started and growing so I'll be able to have a nice decent sized plant to put in my garden this summer. And of course, being perennials, once they're established, they're going to come back in my garden every year. So this is where what zone you're growing in really matters, because that basically tells you how cold it's going to get in the winter. And certain perennials can only withstand certain cold temperatures. So that's why we want those cold hardy perennials that will last our cold winters and come back every spring. So we're going to start off, we're going to grow some thyme. This of course is the classic English thyme, the herb that you use in your kitchen. And that's why I really love growing herbs in my garden, because while yes, you can buy herbs from the store, you just never know how long ago they were picked, how long they've been there for, how they were dried. By growing your own herbs and drying them yourself, you're going to get a really, really good product that's going to give you all those benefits from that herb into your food, into your cooking. With perennials, a lot of times their seeds are super tiny. Like I won't even be able to show these to you. I'll take a picture and throw it up. They kind of remind me of what a strawberry seed would look like. If you look, the outside of a strawberry, that's where the strawberry seeds are. They're tiny just like that, because of course strawberries are perennials too. So again, I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle these right on the surface. And I'm probably not even going to really cover them with much soil. I'm just going to use my water spray and spray on them, and that will probably sink them down enough that they're going to be able to sprout. I am multi-sowing this. I'm going to put multiple ones per cell because they're perennials. This is how they would naturally kind of grow. They would just drop a whole bunch of seeds and then they would fight it out for who's going to be the hardiest. And thyme is hardy to our zone 3. I have had it come back. I did have it in a raised bed, so it did not come back the one year. The last year I had it in the ground up by my roses, so I'm really hoping it should come back. If not, we're starting more so we can plant more. And I'm also going to be starting this creeping thyme. It just kind of grows along the ground as you would think. It creeps along. I do have some of this in my back little sanctuary garden I started, but it never really took off. It's pretty shady. So I'm just going to get some more started and kind of put it out a little bit so it can really kind of envelop the area. So that creeping thyme definitely is hardy to our zone. Next, we're going to grow some oregano, Greek oregano. Now, I did try to start some of these seeds last year. Nothing really grew. I ended up buying a start from the store, and that worked out. But again, it was just in a container. I didn't have it in the ground, so it didn't overwinter. It just died. So we're going to try to get a big patch of oregano. I did have, again, oregano in a raised bed. Came back one year, died the next fall. So I'm going to put it in the ground where hopefully it will be a perennial. Again, oregano is just another one of those really common kitchen herbs that you can use in your cooking. I'm really learning just how these common herbs that we use every day in our cookings are actually so beneficial for our bodies. So I'm really trying to establish lots of my own herbs, because that will be the best medicine from my own garden. Next, we got rosemary. Again, this is another one of those common herbs. They can take a while. Well, I guess I don't have any rosemary seeds. I guess I won't be starting any rosemary. It actually can be tough to start. I had a little bit last year I started. It's still growing in a pot, half dead, tough to overwinter. I might pick up some more seeds, or honestly, maybe I'll just buy some starts in the spring. One thing I know I have seeds for here is some lovage. Grown this before. It is basically, it just tastes like celery, kind of like celery leaves. These ones are a bit of a bigger seed, so I'm going to actually just maybe put 2 or 3 per little cell here. Again, these are another ones that you can grow, and you can dry the leaves, and then you're going to have that sort of celery flavoring and the benefits of all those little compounds in there all throughout the winter. And of course, you can eat them fresh in the summer too. Sometimes I find, because we are thinking so much about preserving for the winter, I sometimes lose the kitchen garden, the eating garden. So this year I am definitely going to be doing things a little bit differently and separating those two, because I think sometimes the freshness of the garden gets lost on me, and I really, really want to enjoy that part. So yes, we can eat the lovage fresh as well as store it over the winter. Next, we have some garlic chives. Again, perennial, they should come back. I've got some growing, but I need to start more, because the other thing is perennials, they do take a long time to grow. So every year they'll get a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. And it's the compounding effect. So the bigger they get, then the more bigger they're going to get. But of course, I'm impatient and I just want to have it all now. So the more we start out with, then the more we're going to be able to harvest sooner. These ones are a little bit bigger than the oregano, so I'm just going to push them in a little bit. Then all that little soil that gets pushed up and around, I just kind of fold over back on top. Next, we're going to start some sage. It's always nice to have that sage for when you're cooking the turkey dinner at Thanksgiving. So just a few seeds here that I dumped everywhere. I'll separate them. Sage, again, I've started from seed before. It can be tricky. With these perennials, you just really have to give them time. They're going to be so small. If you saw my videos from last year with like the mint and stuff, I'll be starting. It's just tiny when it comes up. So that's why when that spray bottle comes in handy, because you're not going to be like drowning out these little seedlings and all that kind of stuff. Just a nice light mist just gets that water right where it needs to go as they start to grow. I also have some of this white sage, which I didn't get anything to germinate last year. So we're going to try it again. I have a few seeds left. We'll see if we can get some white sage growing as well. It's nice having all the different options in your garden. And of course, with all of these different herb varieties, sometimes they do have different benefits for you. Oh, speak of the devil, here we have the mint. Love mint. It's one of my favorite things to grow in the garden. A lot of people say that the mint is invasive. Being in a zone 3, if anything's invasive, I will take it. I do have a bunch planted out by my rhubarb. We're going to see what comes back. And for me, like, I'm just going to keep harvesting and harvesting and harvesting as much as I can. So we'll get this mint started. I really like mint. We have dry it all the time. It's pretty much a staple for when I'm making like my own herbal teas. I always like to use it kind of as a base. Really like the mint flavor. It's very good for you. It's really good for your digestion. You know, if you had a bit too much to eat, you can just have a sip on some mint tea and it'll make you feel better. Now here I have some spearmint. We're going to grow that as well. I did buy a start last year, but I did not plant it in the ground, so I don't think it's going to come back. But spearmint's just another nice one. It's actually a little bit different than mint. It's more gentle than mint. So if you're looking for something for kids, or if you don't really like that super spiciness of mint, the spearmint is something really good to grow. And these seeds are just, I think, they look like a poppy seed, just so tiny that like I don't even want to touch the soil now, or I'm going to knock them all down. And then we have some lemon balm. Again, I've grown this before. It's really good. It's really crazy how something that's not a lemon can just smell like a lemon. This is really great for your teas. For when you're putting it in your tea, it actually has a really nice calming effect. And I don't really notice it having too much of a lemony flavor once it's in my tea. It's mostly just when it's fresh. But again, you're probably getting all those good compounds in it. It's a member of the mint family. So again, it's going to go ahead and spread if they say it will. I've never had that happen here, but I'm not going to say it won't happen, because then it will happen. And I do have some lemon balm up in that perennial little rose garden I established last year. So we'll see what comes back. If it comes back well, I will probably put this stuff somewhere else. But if it doesn't come back well, I'm going to go ahead and have some plants and I'm going to be able to replant there. This is one of my favorite plants, is catnip. Now this is super hardy. Where my roses are there in the back are the cinder blocks. And I did have some mints planted a few years back. And over the winter, nothing came back. Like I had mint, peppermint, mojito mint, chocolate mint, and catnip. And nothing came back until midway through the season. I saw the catnip growing. So this stuff is super hardy. I also have some below, which comes back every year. Super hardy. My cats love it, of course, and we really love it. It's great for tea. Again, it's a really calming thing to put in your tea. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to start 2 of these cells, because I want to grow a whole big row of it so I can start harvesting a whole lot. And my plan is maybe potentially to get enough herbs that I'm going to be able to start selling some of these dried herbs, because I know not everybody can establish a big catnip patch. I mean, especially if you're in the city, you might be just inviting all of the neighborhood cats to come to your property, which is not always the nicest thing, especially, you know, trying to keep the cats out of the garden. Although it's kind of funny, they can't really smell it until you actually like crush the leaves, and then they can kind of smell it. But once they know where it is, then they know where to go to take a little bite, and that's what they want. Okay, so there's one tray. A nice thing too with growing all the herbs in your garden is once they go to flower, they attract all the pollinators. The bees love them. So it's a great source of food for you and the pollinators. And again, once they go to flower and to seed, you can save your own seeds. So if they don't come back, you can go ahead and plant them again the next year. Like here we have some chamomile. Pretty much most of the herbs I'm growing are for my teas. It's actually kind of crazy when you start drinking loose leaf tea, how expensive it is. And it's crazy how easy it is to grow these herbs in your garden. And you really don't need a whole lot of plants in order to supply what you would need for the year. This one is a bold gold chamomile. So it's a approved variety that is supposed to just have more of those compounds that are good for you. And I'm going to start probably a couple of these trays here. These are seeds from last year I started, and the ones that I had growing in the garden. We're going to establish just some more of those because I definitely did not grow enough for my teas. Did save some seed. This is all my saved seed here of chamomile. So I'm actually going to probably start a different tray with a whole bunch of this because I'm going to want to establish a nice big row out in my garden of chamomile to be able to start harvesting to hopefully sell some dried chamomile. Now, lavender is a tough one for me. I did have it come back a couple years and then it didn't come back. I do have one up by my rose bush. We'll see if it comes back. But even in one season, I can get it to flower. So if it doesn't come back, I'm thinking I want to start a whole bunch of lavender this year that I can just harvest it in the first year. I love the smell of lavender. It's probably one of my favorite scents in the world. Just that very calming aroma. Some people have a bit difficulty with growing lavender. I've always been lucky with it growing for me. So I just always say those with these small seeds for me, I think it's the spray bottle, is just using that spray bottle, because if you top water with like a watering can, it's gonna like wash things and move things around. And even if you bottom water, I find even with these small cells that it sucks up too much water. Kind of with these small guys, I only want a bit of the surface really wet until they germinate and get established. Otherwise, they're just gonna get drowned in there. These are some mixed petunia seeds. These are actually really old, from 2020, and I've never been able to get petunias to start from seed. But this is a lesson. Don't give up. I'm just going to use up the rest of these. Try it. Normally every year I just buy my petunias from the store, which I'm going to do again this year. There are so many beautiful petunias out there. It is actually hard to decide when I go to the store what to buy. It'd be nice if I could maybe get some of these established. So I'm just going to like really put a lot. Just a whole ton in here. I don't think I might have even ever had any germinate, so the seeds might be bad, but I'm gonna try again. Next I have a Spilanthes. This is a toothache plant. So it's kind of, I've seen them for sale at the store. These ones take a long time to grow, so I'm gonna get it started now. And again, it's just that something, it's kind of what, I'm not sure what the compound in, but basically you can rub it on your mouth or your gums and it'll sort of numb them. So if you have a toothache, so we're going to grow this one. And plus it looks really cool with those kind of yellow bulb things. I always like that unique kind of look, and it adds texture. Next, we're going to start some wild bergamot. Again, this is something that the bees absolutely love. Again, you can grow it and you can harvest it and you can use it for teas. And it's just a really nice addition to the garden. Pretty little purple flowers. Again, I have some up by my roses. That's my little perennial garden I started last year. We'll see if it comes back. It should come back, but I'm going to get some more established because I'm thinking if it grows a little bit this year and I could put some new ones in, I'm really going to be able to fill these out in a couple of years as opposed to taking 5-6 years. Yarrow. Yarrow is a lovely plant. I have it growing wild on my property, and I have some in my garden already. But I'm going to be starting some nice rows of it. I love the smell of it. It really reminds me of the summer. And again, it is really good. I have it all dried. We put it in our teas. It's actually also really good for stopping bleeding. You can just, if you have it dried, you can just pack that right onto the wound and it'll stop the bleeding. And then the seeds that I just had in my seed haul, if you would have seen, I got my red yarrow. We're going to get that one established. So the red yarrow doesn't have the same medicinal qualities as the white yarrow, but it's just for that pop of color to the garden. Then you get those beautiful bouquets. And also, if you want to get into flower essences, those colors can bring about different emotions. No red, you're thinking love. We got a yellow one for joy and happiness. Yellow has always been my favorite color. We're definitely going to get some of these ones established. Oops. I think I'm doing the same thing I did last year where I put a whole bunch in one, and it was just like a big bush right there. But you know what? I planted it and it did really well. So that's the nice thing with these perennials, I find, is overplanting them. They don't really compete. They don't get overcrowded. They kind of like that. And then we have the anise hyssop, which is another one, another member of the mint family. The mint family are quite popular apparently, and they have a lot of good qualities. So let's just grow them all. Again, drying, using this one to dry for teas. And the bees love these ones. And a lot of people grow this actually just for the flowers in their garden. But I implore you to start looking at growing things for multiple reasons: for the beauty of the flower, for bringing in the pollinators, for having teas. Then you can just really maximize all those things that you're growing. And I seem to have planted too many things in these big rows because I have one more seed to plant. This is the valerian. I'm gonna go for the valerian roots. We'll just have to grab another container for that. But those are the herbs and perennial flowers that I am starting for this year. So this is not an exhaustive list of all the things you could be starting this week. If you're growing some other herbs, if you have anything that's perennial that's going to take a long time to grow, go ahead and start it now. Because even with these things, the thyme, the oregano, if they get too big, I'm just going to chop off the top, and then I have a little bit of fresh herbs to use, and then it's going to keep regrowing from that root, because their roots aren't sensitive like a lot of the annual plants and flowers are. They can definitely handle a lot more manhandling and handle it if they're a little bit more root bound. They don't tend to be as disturbed with that kind of stuff. Quick update from last week's seed starting of the onions and celery. The green onions that I saved from my own seed are sprouting very well, as well as these other winter onions, and they're from a local seed company. Everything else is kind of slow. Celery doesn't come up for, it's going to take a long time, so I'm not worried about that. Just starting to see a little bit of life from the big onions again, except for my saved seeds over here, which the germination is really well, and you're seeing a lot of them popping up in each cell. So score one for the saved seeds. That's what we have started here, 12 weeks before our average last frost date. Next week at 11 weeks, I'll be starting my peppers, so don't miss out that video because I'll explain exactly why I'm starting them at that time. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.